Oh, too many things that yeah. Just that these free. They are free. Good reading.
Oh, sorry.
This is my daughter, Natalie. She's a little parted out, so fragile. Yeah.
The tuna, the name tuna stuck to the board, even though there's no more tunas on it. So, but I love it because it's the tuna rider. But it came from here, but nobody really saw it coming. It's just too weird, too far outside of. And when going with global surf industries, because when you're completely alone doing something, it's really hard to get excited. Because you just, you've got maybe one guy that's kind of interested in their boards, and all your boards keep breaking and they all kind of suck. And so by going to global surf industries, I was able to say, oh look, can you give me a hand here? I know this is going to work. It's really far out, but I know it's going to work and work really good. And it finally, they actually got me through where I would have never done this on my own, because after the Alea and all the other boards, I was just exhausted, just kind of going, I can't do it alone again, you keep losing money. It costs too much.
I wondered about that.
I lost $40,000 on the Alea, easily.
Yeah. Nice boards, Tom.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It stays into the water because if a board has a roll on the bottom and it flexes, as it's going across the water, the faster it goes, the more it will pull down into the water. So even though this board is absolutely featherweight, as it's going across the water, these rolls right here are actually pulling it into the water. So it's light as a feather, except once it's at speed, it's actually being sucked into the water, like what they call a displacement hull. And it's only a little bit, but it's enough. And it's a real fine balance between too much pull down and not enough pull down. But it works between the flex and the curve that pulls it into the water. And if you don't have the flex, it won't work. And if you don't have the right roll, it won't work. But if you put the two together, it works great. And that's what ancient wine surfing is all about.
And that's why you get the speed as well.
Yeah, and you get tremendous amounts of speed. Because as it pulls into the water, just magic, I guess, it just pops forward. Whoa, speed. And then without the fin, there's no upper end of the speed. Like it doesn't appear to be any upper speed. There's no drag, so you just keep going faster and faster and faster. With the fin, no matter what the fin is, the faster you go, the more drag it creates. And then there's actually another element to fins where the faster you go, the smaller the fin you need, because there's more lift in the fin. It's kind of one of these hydrodynamic things, so it kind of creates, the faster you go, the more drag the fin creates, because it's wanting to lift and it's kind of wanting to fight against what the board wants to do. Without the fin, you just feel this acceleration, and then when you kind of expect it to slow down, it doesn't. It just keeps going. And then you fall off and your eyes get pulled back and your mouth fills up and your hurts and you roll across the water. It's like a water skiing fall off.
Sounds fun.
Sorry, Ren. There's a picket fence in the mirror.
There is. Well, we were hoping that it'd be smoking today and everybody would paddle out on them.
Later on there will be.
Yeah.
Again, Greg? Yeah, you got nice. You should be on the table this week.
Thank you very much. If it's this short, the last thing you need is any rocker. And then I'm thinking, back in Jerry's day, the single fins, they ended up with these hard rails in the front.
Yeah.
And that's because, they were slide tubing a lot and they were driving off the front rail. And then the soft rails in the tail, because that's where you're turning off of when you want the tail to go in the water.
Yeah,
and if you have a fin on the board, you need that. If you don't have a fin, well then you need that knife rail back there.
Yeah.
But once you put a fin on, everything changes. And so all the boards, if you look at them, they're all different. They're totally different to what convention. And then the guys, they ride them and they say, yeah, they are different. They ride different.
A lot of Takayama boards, even the small ones, are really soft and the rails long.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people harden them up sort of from the front of the fin or whatever. A lot of theirs are quite soft.
As soon as you get that hard rail and the board just starts skittering. If you got that soft rail, the rail itself will go underwater and pop up again. So it's and the whole fish is the same sort of situation where you got a really tucked under edge. And I was just actually at Jamie's and looked at some brewers, and that's the same edge from a brewer from the late 70s. You know, it's really all the way around the tucked under edge. And they do that so the board will turn on a rail and come out of it. And if you don't have a fin on the board, you don't want that. But if you do have a fin on the board, you do want that. And so that. And then it's funny because I've got this interview with Skip Fry from the late 1980s, and you know he had the roll like this in his boards, and he was saying, well, that's the fastest thing through the water is that roll. And nobody had it back then, and he wasn't even a popular shaper back then.
Yeah.
He was, but nothing like now.
Well, and then like Roger has kind of accentuated that with a chine as well.
Yeah.
So like his has then got an edge and a chine.
Yeah.
If you look at his, yeah.
And then with the boards that are debatably finless, you know, you got the same thing. You got the roll, the chine, and that for sure works. There's no doubt about it. That these guys are fat and they ride. You can do a bottom turn off this fin, and then you can break it free and just slide sideways across the way with the fin. And you can do both. You can take the fins out altogether, or you can put big twin fins in it. It rides really good as well.
Yeah.
It's a really versatile board. But yeah, the chine. But also what we've learned is that the top of the chine really matters.
Yeah.
Like you have to. If you have one, then you really want that other one as well. For the finless, because that's what gives you your grab. But if you put a big fin on this, it's not quite the same. Hey, JV. Morning, JV. How are you? You looking good?
Yeah, cool.
But it's a really neat arc from that one to this one to that one to that one.
Yeah.
It kind of all makes sense.
Melding of ideas.
If that's as hard and sharp as
Yeah, well you have to have that, or else it just
because
doesn't
you've
work.
got no fin to grip. Yeah.
And when we were going through the process, it took me 27 of these to get them right.
Yeah.
And if you have the slightest roll right there, it just slides out.
Yeah.
And you look at
Bodyboards at that angle.
yeah.
That's what I was about to say. I was talking to Dave Kelly about that same thing.
Yeah.
You need that hard edge from the old Maury boogie days, in the
Yeah.
70s. That's the same sort of thing that Tom Maury had.
But it's funny when if it's slightly wrong, it's wrong. Like
Yeah.
you just can't believe how wrong. Like the first one that came back, one of the prototypes had an edge right there, and they're like, they're kind of looking at it going, yeah, feel that edge. That's going to really grab the water. And I said, no, it doesn't. It does exactly the opposite thing. An edge releases water, and this roll is what grabs the water.
And it stays on. The water stays on the surface rather than releasing.
Yeah.
And that's what you want.
Well, you want it, and this as that roll goes through the water, it pulls the board down, and it gives you that traction. And if you have the traction, the hard edge and the flex, it pulls itself into the water, gives you total traction, and then releases again. And then you get traction when you want it. But it's amazing that how much water this displaces. And you see those guys when they're doing a cutback, they just like that. It'll tear a wave in half, which you wouldn't think would happen. But it does.
See some of these out here.
Yeah, you'll see. Yeah.
School.
Can't go anywhere because I can't make them out of wood. I haven't sold any of them. In order to make a wood one, it costs it's like $1,800, $1,900 minimum. Who's going to buy one? An experimental, weird thing.
It's opened up a whole another window.
It had to happen. Thank you. But it kind of did it, But he's kind of looking at back and saying, "Well, no, I'm not going to produce them." You guys, you can look at it. Here you go. Oh, can't see it. We're here. It's just like, look and check it. Everybody, and from South Africa to Hawaii to Europe, everybody's riding this and getting to sing. Okay, let's take it from here.
You know what I think?